Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about the 1983 candidates match which took place in Moscow between Gary Kasparov and Alexander Beliavsky. We all know about Gary Kasparov. Let's talk a little bit about Alexander Beliavsky. He was born in 1953, so at this time he was about 30 years old, and so he was about 9 or 10 years older than Kasparov, who was about 20, 21 at the time. Um, Belyavsky was born in the Soviet Union, but former Soviet Union, in a place called pronounced Lviv, uh, which was in the Ukraine, which would now be considered Ukraine, but at that time it was Soviet Union. Um, Very strong grandmaster. He was world junior champion in 1973. Um, Russian champion in 74, 88, 87, 1990. Um, Won numerous tournaments. He was top five in the world, you know, um, in the late 70s and 80s. So very strong grandmaster. And this match was considered at the time the most exciting out of all the candidates matches that were going on at the time. You still had at this time in '83, you still had some of the old guard hanging around. Korchnoi was still very strong, but he was older, and even though he was very strong, everyone knew that he was not going to beat Karpov. So even though he was respected, it was kind of like his ship had sailed already. Smyslov was in this tournament. Um, if you're interested, I went over the Smyslov Kasparov candidates match. Again, he was 63 years old, and then you had players that were basically a step down from these two players. Players like Zoltan Ribley, again, good players, but you know that they wouldn't, be a serious threat to Anatoly Karpov. You had um, Ernesto Torre was in this tournament. Excuse me, in the candidates match, he was eliminated by Portis, I believe. So the Kasparov-Beliavsky match was considered the match. I mean, you had Kasparov, who was this young rising star. Um, he was already, I believe, by this time number two or three in the world. Um, just a meteoric rise, basically without interruption. There wasn't that, rise a little then drop, and he just kind of was like just a comet through the chess world. And so it was interesting um, to see this match for people. And Beliavsky was still young. Again, he was about 30 years old, 29 to 30 years old. Uh, you know, very strong player. And so let's get to it. Basically, for this match, Beliavsky was pretty easy for Kasparov to prepare for because Beliavsky is a was known as like classical player, simple repertoire, but knows his repertoire really good. So with White, he was expected to play Queen's Gambit. I'm sorry, E4, classical repertoire, um, and he had these systems that he would play. Queen's Gambit declined as black, and pretty much, so Kasparov can kind of zone in on that. Again, the um, the upside of that for somebody with a limited repertoire is they usually know that repertoire like in and out and in and out, so it's really hard to crack the system. Beliavsky also is an adherent to the like two knights defense. So he basically kept a classical opening system. Kasparov at this time was playing King's Indian defense. Benoni, what a surprise, right? Being a dynamic player. And so, although Beliavsky was an E4 player, for this tournament, he prepared D4. And odds are he probably prepared for Kasparov's King's Indian. and his Benoni. All right. Um, let's see what else do we have here. Um, this match took place between February 26th and March 20th, 1983, in the Moscow Hotel. All right. And so let's get to it. His first game, Kasparov had the white pieces, Beliavsky the black pieces. And true to form, he played his Queen's Gambit decline, and Kasparov played the exchange variation. And this was transposed into the Tartakovra defense. It's all well known at the time. And here, Beliavsky played the move knight c6, bishop a6, and here white is going to try to make something out of a slight advantage of the weakening of the light squares by eliminating the dark square bishops, the light square bishops, and then attack the resulting hanging pawns that occur on the C and D files. So bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, knight g4, bishop d8, knight d8, and knight d4. So it looks like, Beliavsky's, Kasparov just winning a pawn. But again, this guy knows repertoire in and out. So bishop takes f6, knight takes f6. So Kasparov is prepared well, and he ends up in a situation where basically the only advantage that white has in the position is black's bad pawn structure. And I kind of raced through the opening because I wanted to get to this position. This is a very critical position already in the first game. It's white to move here, again, which is Kasparov, and the position is pretty much dead symmetrical, save the queen on d4 versus the queen on b7. The rooks are in the same spot, and the pawns on the queen side are basically, pristine. There's nothing wrong with those pawns. It's the king side pawns that grab our attention. If you look at Beliavsky's pawns, the pawns are doubled, and then one is isolated. All right. Now these are static weaknesses. In other words, in theory, they're weak, but it's up to the player, at the board to prove, or find the way to exploit them and actually prove that they are weak. All right. So we look at the features in the position. We see that this is what stands out. It is the broken up pawns on the king side, and also as a result, the lack of protection of the king. These features let us know, right, and kind of give us an indicator of how we should be trying to attack. So besides the king position being broken open and the pawns being weakened on that side, so now we know, okay, we got a flag telling us, okay, we should be attacking over on that side of the board. Now we have to look at some other features in the position. We have three open files, C, D, and E files. So that lets us know that we want to bring our rooks to those files. Okay. Then we have the open ranks. Again, the third, fourth, fifth ranks are pretty much open. So if we can get a rook to one of these open files and then up, say, on the third rank, and then over to the semi-open G file, then white would be in business. Okay. So the problem that exists is that when white, attempts to take over a file, for instance, rook A to C1, then immediately Beliavsky will oppose it with his rook and then trade off the rooks. And this is what happened in the game. Rook A C1, of course, Kasparov wants to play rook C3 and rook G1, rook G3 and checkmate. Immediate opposition. Kasparov played queen G4 check, king H7, and we had this little cat and mouse game, queen F4, and then again a feature of the open files in the position. Now it's Beliavsky threatening mate, if queen takes on f6. So f5 check, king g7, h4. The, rook moves to the open file, queen g4 check, king h7, queen f4. And the basic idea is that black understands white needs more than one piece. So the king is just fine. Rook takes c8, queen takes c8. So one rook down and one rook to go. Rook d1. Beliavsky plays queen e6. And rook d3. Queen e1. King h2. And this kind of deads the attack right here. At least the mating attack, that is. Rook g3 because of the pin. King h7. But Kasparov finds an ingenious way to escape the pin by playing rook g3 check, king h7, queen c4, queen d4. And the players went back and forth in this manner. Kasparov desperately trying to find a way into the position, and if not a way into the position, just trying to get black to compromise his position while conducting a defense. But Beliavsky did a real good job holding his nerves. Right? Just not making his position worse, but just holding. Notice he didn't move any of those pawns yet, right? He's just holding. Queen f5. Finally, Kasparov trades because he has access to the 7th rank. Rook e7. Rook a5, again just holding on. And just good defense by by Beliavsky. You know, he's just showing what caliber of player he is. This type of position is easy to lose as black. Now king g3 is played. Rook d6. Let's go back 1 second. The problem again, hopefully you saw that, but I'll just point it out. With rook takes b6, it would just be rook d4 check, picking up the a4 pawn, and that's tantamount to a draw. So this is why the king went back to g3. So rook d6, rook e6, g3, king g7, rook c4. And so this was a tense game and a good opening for the initial battle, and kind of like was a sign of things to come. Okay, both players wanted it badly, and both players were young and full of energy, and this leads to some intense battles. And after a6 b3, the game was agreed drawn. So great defense by Beliavsky and good effort by Kasparov in trying to win. Now I want to go back to this position. Again, this is game 1. After king g7 here, again in the game, Kasparov played rook ac1 with the simple idea of bringing the rook to the 3rd rank and transferring over to the g file. And I had mentioned that the problem with the idea is that black can always oppose immediately. And so we saw that plan didn't work out. So I was looking at this position, and it's funny because I looked at this game years ago, and I couldn't come up with, I was trying different stuff, revolving around queen g4 check and just basically moving around. But then all of a sudden I looked at the position, and this move just popped out to me, which is just a4. And maybe if I just use the engine right away, maybe it would happen. I don't even know if it. Well, maybe they come up with an engine, but anyway, I just looked at it and it just popped out, and it was just one of those moments where you're just like, man, you've been looking at it for so long, you don't see it, and then all of a sudden it comes. I'm not even saying it's right, but the idea, the plan is basically to protect your rook. Instead of exposing it to a quick exchange by playing rook c1 right away, you play a4, and then you could kind of bring the rook out. You know, it's like the A pawn is like a bodyguard, it protects it from getting traded. You bring it to A3 with the same idea, you see, and then you bring it over. So let's look at this line. Again, it's just a sample line. So rook A1, rook G8, and the idea, of course, is to mate right here after the king moves. So rook A3, queen C6, excuse me, and queen C6, again, explain that protects this pawn after the king moves. Queen F4, king H7. Of course, mate is threatened on G2, so, and this move throws a monkey wrench, as you can see, in White's plan, because now G3 stops the rook from being able to just cross over, say, to H3 or whatever, or even use the G3 square himself. Okay, C8, rook E3, rook G8, rook takes E8, and now the other rook comes in, and now you have played analogous to what happened in the game. So it is very difficult. Um, it seems like White has, White definitely has an advantage, but is it enough to take home the point? Another starting point I tried was Queen G4, but still couldn't bring it home. So it just might not be enough. And Kasparov put forth a valiant effort and just wasn't able to bring home the victory. But very interesting start to the candidates match. So we'll leave that one there, and then we'll pick up on the next video.